Now before we make up our connections, our water connections, and I guess we could do that whenever, you got to look up there and make sure you put cold to cold and hot to hot up there. Remember how I was saying how to tighten that down? And see, this was your pipe that goes for your pull-out spout, okay? We don't want to, I don't want to put that up in there just yet. I want to tighten these other fittings up here first so I got enough room. Then I can snap that up in there. And what I want to do is I want to route that up properly so it's not hitting anything, because you remember that's what that weight was for. This big huge weight I'm going to end up putting somewhere on the line. I'm going to loosen up the 2 screws, and this is a split ring. I'm going to clamp half and half, put the screws back on, tighten that up, and then as you pull the spout out from up above, my weight is going to be on here, and then as you push it back down, this weight, all it does is help you push that back down. I mean, do you really need this? Probably not, but if it comes with yours, go ahead and put it on. Okay, so next thing, I'm going to connect up the cold water line up here, and I'm glad, see, that's why I put the Teflon tape on already from before, so I don't have to do it now, because it would be kind of tricky to do a little bit, but I've done that before. It's kind of tricky, but you can do it. Okay, so before I do that, I've got to spread these out just a little bit, and they're the copper pipe, so you got to be careful. You don't want to push these out too far, you know, with your hands, because if you do too much, you're not thinking about it, you could kink the copper tubing that's way up high, okay, way up high into the sink neck, and then you could void your warranty if you crimp that and get a leak or whatever. Okay, so you look at that, I know I can see which one's the hot. This first one here happens to be the hot, the cold is in the back. Well, that's going to be tricky in itself, just getting the wrench up there, making sure I'm holding the back side of that as I'm tightening that up, but you can do it. Just be careful, righty tighty, lefty loosey on the nut. See, this is our cold water line, and for it to go up in there, I'm going to righty tighty on these threads here, not the copper tubing up here with the brass threads on there. All you're going to do with that is you're going to hold that above that with your pliers. Remember that little notch up there? Don't put your pliers on the copper tubing, okay? Because that's not going to hold, right? Then after you hold that, then you're going to tighten this, and this is all you're going to turn with your wrench. Got it? Okay, so far so good. Got the hot water connected, the cold water all tight. And then see that other fitting that comes down right here. You have to pull that cap off. You might have to take a pair of pliers and take it. I loosened it up with a pair of pliers. And see, that little cap comes off to protect this sleeve. Okay. So then we're gonna position this up there, and see there's a push button thing there. Well, it comes up and down. All you're gonna do is take that up there. I really gotta show you this, huh? Okay. Right there, and push it up there. See that? And when you think you have it, you want to pull down on it. I want to pull down on this to make sure it's on there tight, okay? And it is. And that's all you've got to do with that. before you do that, obviously, you want to make sure this pipe is positioned so that when we put the weight on, we're going to take that weight now. I've got to undo that. And then see, this is the piece coming down from the sink. We want to make sure it's not hitting anything. And see how it is? We're good. We're good. And it tells you to put it at the lowest point. So we're going to put it right in there. And we're going to attach that. Okay? That's your next step. There you go. Make sure you get that on there properly. Okay? Now we can come up here. We can pull this, make sure it runs even, and it should, because you've already taken the time to make sure that it was placed properly underneath the sink. Okay? It just kind of helps you push everything back down. You're gonna have to try it a couple times, make sure it doesn't hold up on something. I see here. We'll just have to see what's going on with that and try it a few times, and if we have to rearrange the pipe up there, we may have to do that. Okay? See, if you think this back pipe might need to be slid up in there, it's on the little slip joint fitting. You can pop that back off the coupling and reroute that. In fact, let's see. It comes off here. See, there's just that little fitting, and you just kind of push up on it, and then it comes off. Okay, so now maybe I can reposition this and snap it back up there, pull on it. Got that repositioned. So now as I pull this out, let's see what happens. It's hitting a little bit, isn't it? See? Might have to rethink that. Okay? So make sure all that runs good, and then we're just about ready to turn the water on. Okay, well, if you remember, we had to turn the water off outside because one of those gate valves wasn't working all the way. So I turned the handle up, and that's how much water is coming out of here, even without the gate valves on. So, you know, I like to do stuff so that you can see what I'm doing, so I don't check anything out first. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the hot water valve on. And the cold water. I still got my faucet on, which is fine. Boy, that hot water handle's suspect there. And sometimes what they tell you can do is I could have unscrewed it right here and then let the water come out first, so that if there's any water in the line, because we turn the main water line off, and sometimes even when you turn the gate valve off and you turn it back on, it might loosen up some sediment inside the pipes, and then your aerator, the first time you turn it on, it might already be plugged up. I'm thinking, what's going on with that? Well, then you'd have to read the directions, see how to unscrew the aerator, because each one is different. And so that's why you could do that first. This is a nut and a little sleeve with female threads, and this has male threads on it. Okay. Fortunately for us, it's looking fine. And I'm still gotta look underneath here, because I thought I saw one of these water lines that was dripping water. Now I think maybe it was because one of the fittings wasn't tight all the way. It was this cold water. The cold water side up here. And it looks it looks good. Looks dry. You always want to check your fittings after you turn your water back on. And I'm going to turn this on again and just run it for a few minutes. And I'm going to wipe this down here. Make sure I don't have any water residue down here. I'm going to let this run for a few minutes and see if I get any drips, because if I do, then I can shine my flashlight up there and see exactly where it's dripping. And don't make the assumption just because it's dripping off of a pipe here or over here that it's coming from the fitting above this. It could be something up higher running down a different pipe and dripping and whatever. So, you know, that's a kind of a little trick in itself, trying to troubleshoot a water leak, because you've got to check everything out. But in our case, we're going to just let that water run for a bit and see what happens. Hopefully no leaks. So far so good. I'm not seeing any leaks, and I'm glad I put Teflon tape on there. That's my little insurance policy, because if you don't have Teflon tape on there, you got all this done and it's leaking and you've got this as tight as you can go, and you're like, what do I have to do to stop that leak? It might be just as simple as now taking that back off and putting Teflon tape. And so I used to like do it twice if it was only leaking, but nowadays I'm smarter than that. I just go ahead and put the Teflon tape whether I need it or not. Hey, don't be sitting around taking a break or anything. You know these cabinet doors have to go back on, right? So while you're checking the water out, you can get ready to screw these back on while you're waiting. Never a dull moment. I know I'm not supposed to be wasting water or anything, but this is one vital step you've got to do. And I've let it run for a few minutes now, and I felt down here, and it's all nice and dry. You see, if you could feel a little bit of water here, that could mean that one of your fittings is dripping and maybe you didn't get it tight enough. So you got to shut your water off and then tighten it back up and try it again, you know. Okay, I've got the doors back on there. I'm just about done here. Thanks for joining me. Hey, now hopefully you learned something there. Maybe you learned that with a little bit of effort, if an average Joe like me can do it, so can you. Or maybe you learned, you know, that might be a little bit more of a job that I want to tackle, and I probably should go ahead and hire somebody else to go ahead and do that job for me. Okay? You decide. That's all I got for this time, but I'll be back with more videos. Now where's those directions at anyways? Oh, okay, that's how I'm gonna do it.